FM News Talk 97.1.
On demand audio.
Coming up in just a few minutes, a good friend of the show on Big Sites, Department of Justice whistleblower J. Christian Adams, because he was the first one to tip everyone off about this new Black Panther voter intimidation scandal. He also has a book out. And this story, if you have not checked it out yet, it's at biggovernment.com. Photos showing here's a candidate, Barack Obama, who was rallying with the new Black Panther Party, and you can see right behind him is Malik Shabazz, he was one of the guys who was defending the gentleman in Philadelphia who was saying, "Oh, we kill the white people, kill their babies, everything else," and this was the guy who was also with the nightstick in front of that polling place, swinging his nightstick around, being incredibly intimidating. And those court cases it was dismissed. And we didn't know about it until J. Christian Adams blew the lid off of it. He has a new book out right now, and it's called Injustice, Exposing the Radical Agenda of the Obama Justice Department. And he has done so much work on exposing all of this and just making everyone aware of everything that happened. Good afternoon, Christian. I'm so glad you were able to join me today.
Hey, it's great to have my first book interview on your great show.
I'm excited, and I've got it. I've gotten into the first chapter. I took it with me on the flight to Chicago for TCon. There's so much info in this book. This is a fabulous book, and people need to go get this so that they understand exactly what they're up against.
Yeah, everybody knows that the Holder Justice Department has become politicized, but my book explains how it's actually become radicalized. It's not just politicized, it's pure crazy radicalism that's taking place behind closed doors.
And this is all in support of, obviously a definite agenda, but there's a big difference in having a department that's politicized and then going radicalization, especially as you describe in your new book, Injustice. This is, there's some law breaking going on here of all of the departments where law breaking should not be occurring, the Department of Justice. And you get into how the racial grievance and how it threatens the integrity of the upcoming elections. You get into how the DOJ doesn't even really uphold voter integrity. Obviously I don't want you to give away the whole book, but what was the thing when you were in the Department of Justice, you were in the belly of the beast, as it were, when you were writing this book and getting all of this information together, you personally, what has shocked you the most throughout this entire process?
Well, that's a really good question. Probably the thing that I try to capture in Injustice is how widespread the tentacles are of the radicalized racial grievance industry that has control now over the Justice Department. They're suing places like New York and Dayton, Ohio, to ensure that police officers get hired who actually fail the exams that are minorities. They're suing them to force that to happen. They're suing a New York school district to allow children to come dressed up as transvestites. I'm not kidding. Mini skirts, stiletto heels, pink wigs. The Justice Department, the Civil Rights Division, is suing a school district in New York to make them feel welcome. It's just crazy. It's so out of the mainstream, and people just don't realize it's happening. And I detail instance after instance in Injustice.
Now, the administrations in the Department of Justice, just to give everyone something that they can measure against, how different is the Obama Department of Justice as compared to even, say, like the Clinton Department of Justice or the Bush Department of Justice? How radicalized has the DOJ become?
Well, that's a great question. There's a couple ways you can measure that. One is the outlandish sorts of cases they're bringing. For example, I detail a case in Texas where there was an illegal election about to take place. For a variety of reasons it was illegal, but they knew about it being illegal. And a woman named Loretta King, who's in charge of the Black Panther dismissal, I've written a lot about her, she decided they weren't going to do anything about this illegal election because they wanted to see the race of the winner before they took any action. And this is in Texas, Harlingen, Texas. I write about it in the book. And because the right race won, they let an illegal election take place. You can look at the contrast between the Bush Justice Department and the other Democrat-run departments in millions of dollars in fines. During the Clinton and Obama years, millions of dollars of court sanctions have been imposed against lawyers at the Justice Department for misconduct, and I detail them case by case by case in Injustice.
Well, this is it's so shocking to me, especially when you see Fast and Furious coming up in the headlines. And I'm thinking, where has the DOJ been over the Fast and Furious episode? It seems to me that if they weren't sanctioning it, perhaps, and I know that's a whole other story, they've completely been distracted from actual cases of merit with a very radical agenda. Is that would that be non-hyperbole to state such?
No, you've hit the nail on the head. A culture of lawlessness has taken over the Justice Department in parts of the Justice Department, whether it's Fast and Furious, letting guns walk to kill people in Mexico, whether it's widespread indifference to voter fraud in places, frankly, like Missouri. They dismissed the case there against the Secretary of State for having dead people and ineligible voters on the rolls. I mean, there's a culture of lawlessness, which I capture in Injustice, that really would surprise most Americans is going on.
Now, one of the things, too, and this is related to the post that's up today at biggovernment.com, and everyone is talking about these photos. In your book, Injustice, you talk about, you go into corruption that goes way, way, way beyond the new Black Panther charge dismissal. But you also get into the president has had, he's had a long-standing relationship with the very people who had charges dismissed against them. And there are photos of him at an event standing side by side with some of the people who are mentioned in that Department of Justice case. He's at this rally, and again, people can go to biggovernment.com to see that. He's standing right there with Malik Shabazz and all of this. How did this? Is it safe to say that the president's relationship with these radical individuals probably contributed to the DOJ dropping these charges against the new Black Panther Party?
Well, there's some things we do know for sure. Number one, that on March 7th, 2007, Senator Obama appeared in Selma, Alabama, with folks from the new Black Panther Party at an event. The Black Panthers came to Selma to support him specifically, and they announced that from the podium. We know that Obama and Malik Zulu Shabazz, who was incidentally one of the defendants in the voter intimidation case, he was actually one of the named defendants that got dismissed. We know that they both spoke from the same podium, and we also know that as they marched, the Black Panthers were behind candidate Obama, giving a Black Power salute right behind him.
Oh, wow. Well, there's so much in this book. People need to. It's available on Amazon. You can go to Amazon.com and get this. And the book is Injustice, Exposing the Radical Agenda of the Obama Justice Department. J. Christian Adams, we appreciate all of your work, and thanks for joining me this afternoon.
Great to be here, Dana.
Take care.